Hey, welcome back. Gary Brown Forging On, back in the shop. I want to talk to you today about spade hooks. Okay, or the spades. You put them on a hook or on anything. Most people put them on a hook. Basically, you're looking for that spade shape where you're going to come down and have something like that. Well, to get a little bit better spade shape where you're coming out more is what I want to talk to you about today. Now, this was not something, I learned this from one of our instructors at RCBA, which is Rutherford County Blacksmith Association, the group I belong to. It's in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And there's one of the main instructors been doing this for 20, 30 years, I don't know, blacksmithing and teaching and demonstration and stuff is Ron Nichols. And Ron's one that showed me how to do this, and he actually asked me if I could kind of talk about it. He said, make a video about this, so I'm going to do my best to explain this process to you that he explained. So what we're going to do is now I'm going to use 3/8 square stock. You can do this with round stock. Well, you can't see a thing, can you? I'm going to do this with 3/8, like I said, 3/8 square stock. And so what you're going to do is you're going to start out with this plain old square stock. And we're going to we're not going to just taper the end like you normally taper. We're actually going to upset it in by driving it in this way at a 45 with your hammer. So you're going to be, instead of just tapering it down and making it thin, you're going to be pushing this corner back into the material like that. And you're going to do that on all four sides. And so you're going to end up with a real, as Ron put it, a blunt, like a first grader's pencil. It's just a blunt point like that. And it's going to be four-sided, if I can remember my drafting stuff. Anyway, so you're going to have a blunt four sides. Now what you're going to do, and like I said, and all these sides have been pushed in this direction, not just tapered down, like you normally would just, taper something down by hitting it at an angle, and you're actually driving it more this way than into it. So you'll see when I show how we do it at the forge. So then what you get to here, what you're going to do is you want to start rounding it off a little bit. So we're going to take it from square, just like we round anything. We're going to take it from square to eighths. And, oops, that's not that way. And I'm getting worse at my drawings. And we're going to do eighths, and then we're going to do round until we end up with and when we round it, we're not just rounding the tip. We're going to come back about so far in here and knock off the corners and round this part out where we drove that material in. And what we're going to end up with, even though this is a square stock, at the end we're going to have a round piece. You're looking at it from the point down, straight down piece. We're going to have a round piece, and when you flatten the round piece out, you're going to end up with this oval. So what we're going to do after we get that rounded is we're going to end up having something that looks a little bit more like this, and this just round. The whole thing back to about here is just round, 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 round. And then what we're going to do next is now we want that sharp, I don't have it up here. We want that sharp point. So the next step is once we have that rounded and kind of blunt, we're going to take a ball peen hammer or something rounded, and we're going to hit this way, And on this side, we're going to have the horn, the tip of the horn of the anvil. So that we're basically going to end up, after we're done, we're going to end up with a piece that's going to come out and then swoop in from all sides. I'm over-exaggerating, but this is what you want. And once you get this all rounded and even all the way around, you want to come back and then about just below this rounded part, you want to put it on the edge of the corner and set it and put a little dent. It doesn't have to be a big dent. And just a little dent enough you can find it after you reheat it again. At that point, you're just going to come back and you're going to set that indentation on your anvil face, and you're going to have this rounded piece on the face of the anvil, and then you're going to hit it flat, and that's going to smush this way out and come back, and then way out and come back when you do a half face blows on the anvil at the end. Anyway, I don't know if all that makes sense, but this is, you're going to start out like I use 3/8, and I drove it in at a 45. I'm basically upsetting it back into this at a 45 all the way around on the 4 sides. And then I come back on the diamond and I round that up, and then I come back and I round it back about so far onto the actual square stock. And you could do this with, round stock, and you don't have to do any of this rounding, but you still, anytime you do any of this stuff, you're going to take it from square back to round. You just start with round stock. And then you're going to come in and you're going to, when you get it all shaped, you get hot and you put it on the edge of the bick or horn of the anvil, and you come down in here, and you've got to have to really control and hit it in the same spot so that you create this shoulder right here, like I did in there. You really want to drive this in so you create this shoulder that's even. So lock your tongs, if you're using tongs or whatever your handle that's holding a piece, lock it into your side, and so that you can just hold that there in place while you're hitting it. And mine came out just a little bit crooked, but you can see they're not so flat. And so this is where I got to. I don't know if it's coming out or not. That's where I got to, and you can see, there might be a little on the thin side. I may have flattened it up too much, but you get the general idea. But you really, really need to practice. For me to get to all those, I did all these practice pieces. These are some of the first ones, and this shows kind of, wrong spot, how it started out. It just, this is what a lot of spade hooks look like. They're kind of just elongated. And this one, it's getting there, but the top isn't really well done. And then some of them were just, had no top on them at all. But I kept practicing. I kept knowing what the steps are. And I started out making the end here a little bit too long, and that just didn't work. And so I started making it short, and I thought, well, that's too short. But by the time I drove these shoulders in, here, it stretched it out enough. And so then you come back just behind where it's all swole up in the back here, and you set it, and then just put on there half on, half off, and then try to hit it as even as you can. I think a lot of my bend there is just because it started out a lot straighter, and as I was hammering it, I think I hammered too much on one side and actually pushed that tip over a little bit. I mean, it's not perfect, but it still doesn't look bad. And some samples Ron had made where he had practiced and made them for the shop. He made a little storyboard of pieces welded together so people could see how to make them. It came out a lot nicer than mine. But just practice it and get you. I mean, I started out with about 2 pieces of 3/8, probably 2 foot long, 30 inches long, and I got one piece about that long now, and then I got this piece. I just kept doing them, cutting them off, do another one, cut it off, do another one, cut it off. But you got to just practice it. And so, this is the basics behind it. And now I'll get into the video of me making them, and I'll try to describe through the process as I'm going, and then you can see how they work out. But I did find that after I kind of started getting a feel for it, I could repeat it a lot easier. You'll do great. Just keep an eye on watch the video to the end, and you'll see how I did these. And hope you enjoy. Y'all have a blessed day. We'll talk to you later. I'm gonna come in and create 45s by driving or upsetting into a real steep point. You're looking for a steep point. And you don't just want to taper it, you want to drive it in so you push the mass back into the point a little. Okay, so now we're going to put on the diamond. Take the diamonds down. You want to keep it as uniform as you can, otherwise it gets a little lopsided at the end. What you're going to do is you're going to start getting all that driven back in here. It's going to bulge this part out a little bit more. So now I'm going to round it up, but I'm going to round it back into the square part here. I'll show you why in a minute. So I've actually rounded it a little bit. My taper comes to here, but I'm rounding it all the way back into this back here a little bit. I mean, it's not completely round, but it's rounded a little. What I'm going to do is place this on there, and I'm going to come in at an angle, and I'm going to drive right the same spot, right there. I'm holding it, and I'm squishing the point down. It's going to take me a lot of heats because I'm going slow and talking, and I'm using this ball peen because I want to focus it right into the same spot as I'm rotating it around. The more even I can make this, the better it'll come out. Now you can see how it tapers out. That's going to be the point of the spade. Now I want to come back just behind where I've kind of swelled it up. Set it and start flattening. And I'll end up with a little bit of a curve on it. And you end up with a nice spade hook. And turn that into our spade. You can put that on a hook and anything you need.